LA County teams up with Planned Parenthood to create 50 high school health and well-being centers. Why do I have the feeling that health and well-being and ripping apart babies in the womb are about to become synonyms in Los Angeles? I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is the Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today, we're talking about a bizarre story out of Georgetown University, where a class that shows how to perform an abortion using a papaya has been canceled. Plus, parents at Texas High School are furious after a 9th grade science teacher assigned a question about a girl getting raped in a back alley. But we start in crazy California, where Los Angeles and Planned Parenthood have partnered to open 50 sexual health centers in high schools across the area. Yeah, well, this is the story that gets me, Katie. So can we just start by saying this is the LA Times article. And the LA Times would make this sound like it's the most progressive, wonderful thing in the world. Parents are excluded. California has a law that if you're over 12 years old,
all of 12,
you can get any sexual information. You can get any sexual paraphernalia. You can get the morning after abortion pill. You can get an abortion if you're over 12. If you're 12 years old, and one day you can do all that without consulting your parents. I love the way the LA Times talks about this, though. Can I just say before we even get into the article, we keep hearing about how Planned Parenthood has put up $5 million and $10 million for these clinics here and there. You paid for it, not Planned Parenthood. $600 million of your tax funds transferred from the American government directly to Planned Parenthood to now open these health and well-being clinics that they say they paid for that are going to sponsor everything from mammograms to abortions.
Oh, yes. And the LA Times, since they enjoy making stories sound so fruity and fluffy and
fruity
just
and nutty,
the best way they can, this is how they start. A high school senior decided recently that she wants to become sexually active with her boyfriend, but she is not yet comfortable talking to her mom about birth control and would be unable to get to a doctor's appointment on her own. Instead, she walked over to the new well-being center at school during a free period.
And listen, notice the example they use, not the 12-year-old, right? Who's been raped by 3 other boys in her class who needs this immediate. No, this is the high school senior. So she's already almost 18. But this poor downtrodden high school senior who can vote, who can drive a car, she can't talk to her parents about birth control. So we got to open these clinics right on campus so they can go ahead and do this, right? According to the senior, it was easy. Planned Parenthood runs a sexual health care clinic at Esteban Torres High School in East LA once a week. Other days, educators are available for stress management and students' other health concerns, including substance abuse, right? Oh. So this has very little to do. Let's pretend this has nothing to do with the grisly science of abortion. There's nothing to do with the compromising of parental rights. This has everything to do with them taking your taxpayer money and now partnering with schools, right, to provide these services, which are going to make money. And here's the thing, because they're partnering with schools. You know, not only did $600 million go to Planned Parenthood from the federal government, you now know that when California schools are begging for more money, demanding more money, when Red for Ed is demanding for more money for the schools and the teachers, how much money now is going to be funneled into Planned Parenthood so they can continue to give your kids a complete sexual overhaul without consulting mom and dad?
Absolutely. And right now, Planned Parenthood is running 5 of the 34 sites that are open, and they want to get to 50 such centers in the schools throughout just LA County. This isn't 50 nationwide. This is 50 in one little, well, LA County's a huge county, but 50 of them in just the next year. And it's going to cost at least, don't worry, $12 million in its first year alone. And it's going to, as the LA Times says, bring much needed health and wellness care to underserved teenagers at a time when Los Angeles and other districts are struggling to meet the basic needs of their students to help free them to focus on learning.
We've got to give your kid, your 12-year-old, we've got to give her birth control. We've got to put IUDs into the arms of 14-year-olds. We've got to provide the morning after abortion pill for your average 15-year-old so that they can focus on the studies. All of this health and wellness and reproductive rights, all of this nonsense, all of this social progressive reimagining of human bodies, health, and sexuality, that's necessary so she can sit in math class and learn her fractions. That's why we need this, Katie.
I just wish they would learn their fractions, but that's a whole nother story. So the goal, according to this article, is that after 5 years, this will help reduce absenteeism and see a decrease in positive STI tests at clinics.
Yeah, again,
that's what they're trying to do.
What the objective is every school in the country eventually will have these clinics, right? Because what happens in California doesn't stay in California. For whatever reason, when California progressives get their way, that emboldens Illinois progressives and Massachusetts progressives, right, to move in this way. And pretty soon, within 5 years, if you don't have this, you're considered backward and you hate kids. This is how this happens. And again, we're paying for it. Remember, Arnie Duncan, when he was Barack Obama's Secretary of Education, he said that as early as 2009, within 3 months of the inauguration of President Obama, Arnie Duncan said, we are building clinics on our new school construction, right? We are beginning to do this. We are going to make sure that the federal government, the federal array of schools, is going to be responsible for every aspect of your kid's life. They're already indoctrinating them with sex at young ages. They're already partnering with people like Planned Parenthood to completely transform education to be sexually driven, comprehensive sexuality reform. Now they're building actual brick and mortar buildings on campus, on site, where you can hand this stuff off to kids, and mom and dad have nothing to do with any of this. In fact, how long before these schools say to mom and dad, okay, you left the maternity ward, your baby's 2 weeks old, right? You've had it for time to turn it over to us, right? Why don't you let us take your children from the first month they're born and begin the process of transforming them into the kind of progressive people we want them to be?
And this is happening in LA County and also across California. We have more things that are happening in California, but not staying in California. So we have a bizarre story that's coming from Georgetown University, where there was this Papaya Workshop that was run out of the University of California, San Francisco, since 2005. And now they're taking these Papaya Workshops out into the country. And Georgetown University was supposed to teach this workshop, which is, oh yes, this papaya is about performing abortion. And the papaya is supposed to be the training prop. And luckily, Georgetown, the school officials said, you need to move this off campus, that we do not want this. And last year they tried to do it, and even though there were more than 1,700 signatures, the university shut it down. So there's a little positive.
Well, again, the one thing we left out of that brilliant little summary is the fact that it's a Catholic university.
Yes, that's
right. So I mean, this is not some public school who would otherwise love to demonstrate. And this is really pretty gruesome.
The papaya is an excellent model for curettage because as you curette the lining, it really can feel gritty like an empty uterus. I use just a Sims curette that is malleable, and I start by teaching the students the basic ideas of curettage. I have them feel on their hand which side has the sharp edge and which side has the smooth edge, and how to properly hold the curette.
And you can see in that video, that's actually one of the doctors, and she is a doctor, who started the initiative, did the original paper back in 2005, and how this is going all across the country. These workshops are being, they say, led by a doctor and abortion provider from the Reproductive Health Access Project, RHAP. And they will debunk common misconceptions about abortion and perform a demonstration of the procedure on a papaya. And pizza will be provided. Pizza will be provided.
And what a happy little murderess she was, right, in her little lab coat. And, I mean, after all, you can get the feel of how gritty it is, like a recently emptied uterus. And the thing that just blows me away, there are progressives out there that would be more bothered that you're doing this to what was once a living papaya than anything that you're doing to the unborn baby. Right.
Well, and they show this. So back in July, Vice actually did an article about this, and they had the author of the article go learn how to do an abortion on a papaya. I'm going to read this article excerpt. This is a 10-week gravid uterus, Zoe Thill said, holding up a pregnant papaya the size of a large fist. And this, she added, gesturing to her own pregnant belly, is a 38-week gravid uterus. Thill, a New York City-based abortion provider, was explaining the anatomy of the uterus to a group of about a dozen of us in Verso Books' Brooklyn office on a Monday night. The narrow part of the papaya, where the stem would be, is like the cervix, she said. The broader portion of the papaya is like the upper area of the uterus, known as the fundus. And it's the part that we would want to avoid puncturing with our tools when, in just a few minutes, we would practice performing an aspiration abortion on our own papayas. But if we did by accident, they're saying, puncture, that was okay, Thill said. We're not going to shame perforators. She reassured the group. And then after the group was done practicing, it says, it's even more satisfying when it's a real abortion, Phil said. This is all within that Vice article.
It is even more satisfying when it's an actual abortion, right? And this woman was pregnant at the time.
38 weeks.
38 weeks, right? And so she is teaching the glories. She is romanticizing. She is appending cheap thrills to the murder of unborn life while she's carrying her own baby.
Yep.
And when you point out to her, what's the difference between what's killed and what lives? I guess the only response she would give is my choice, right?
Yeah.
And notice just how gleeful she is about this. How about the idea of aspiration? I love this is one of those wonderful medical coincidences when aspirating abortion, right? And you think about the root word for aspire here. And what they're doing is aspiring to end the aspirations of a living human being. We have reached ghoul culture. Ghoul culture has reached a point now from which I think we have kept kids so educated. We have kept young people so morally blunted. We have refused to teach critical thinking, right and wrong. We've refused to provide accurate vocabulary for what exactly happens in things like abortion, that it becomes no one even questions this anymore. So at 38 weeks, just a couple weeks away from actually giving birth to this human being, she's standing in front of groups of kids, young people, and telling her how utterly satisfying it is when you rip out, when you pull apart a living human being.
I'm never eating papaya again. That's what this comes down to.
And you ask yourself, remember we did that show last week about Megan Fox, the actress sending her kids to a school that believed that plants had feelings and could feel pain, and why we had to be very respectful about the way we handled plants, right? I wonder what Megan would. I bet you Megan would have no problem with any of this.
Eating her papaya.
Yeah, nope.
All right, well, parents are outraged over a homework assignment down in Houston, Texas. This was at Klein Collins High School, which is near Houston, I guess. And they were outraged to find that a question on a homework assignment was about rape. The question was part of a biology DNA assignment for about 90 ninth graders. Here's the question.
It's a question about DNA on a homework assignment for ninth graders. Susie was assaulted in an alley and is a victim of rape. The police collected a sample of sperm that was left at a crime scene, and now they have 3 suspects in custody. Which of the suspects raped Susie?
Yeah, and this is something I've talked about for a long time. I've said this going back to the early Common Core days in 2011, 2012. The schools and the textbook companies are under tremendous pressure to make comprehensive sexuality education an aspect of every subject, almost every day, every lesson. I think this is just an unfortunate way to try to squeeze it into science class. I think that these people who are writing science textbooks are feeling this pressure, both at the state and the federal level, because of the new requirements, the new comprehensive sexuality education, that they decided to put this in. It's a bad, tacky choice. You know how you fix this? Here's how you fix this. Here's how nobody would be bothered by this, and it would be the height of progressive. Change the name of the rape victim from Susie to John, and have the 3 potential rapists who left sperm at the rape site, let them have female names. So John was raped by Susie, Jill, and Joan, right? There are three suspects, Susie, Jill, and Joan. One of the 3 raped John, right? The 3 girls left sperm, because this is how they think, right? Here you are in a biology class being forced to insert this kind of nonsensical sexuality warnings about rape or awareness about rape. Why not go full stop on this and use biology classes to do what you're already doing, to pretend biology itself doesn't exist? That at least would be an interesting question. John was raped in an alley. The 3 suspects, Jill, Joan, and Susie. The three suspects left sperm that was collected at the site. Which woman is the rapist? See, this is the gist of what they're going for in these questions. So why not just quit pretending and go full bore?
Oh, maybe they will. But of course, here's the school's response. The assignment is not part of the district-approved curriculum and is by no means representative of the district's instructional philosophy. The district has investigated the source of the materials, and appropriate corrective action has been taken. What does that mean? Corrective action.
This is always what the school says. We can't talk about it. It's a personnel issue. We've determined that it's not our fault, and we're taking steps to fix it. That's pretty much what you know. We're not going to tell you what's going on. It's not our fault, and we've handled it. And so everybody should go back to normal now. And again, I think that there's a lot of pressure on the schools and the textbook companies to incorporate this stuff. It has no business in any. And if you're bothered by it being in a biology class, then you should be bothered by any of that garbage being in any of your kids' subject matter.
Even more so.
Even more so.
All right, that's going to wrap up this hump day. If you'd like to support this program, please consider joining our Patriot Club for $25 a month. Visit drdukeshow.com to get started.
And if you're a fan of the show, and how could you not be, and you have a business, of course you do, you're a hardworking conservative, consider advertising with us. Visit freedomproject.com/advertise. That's freedomproject.com/advertise, and we'll make you famous. We will make you famous. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. Until next time, stay educated, my friends.